Christopher Nolan has never directed a Marvel movie, not one. In an industry built on shared universes, he's the biggest director alive who refused to join any of them. He doesn't carry a smartphone. Still, he writes by hand. And his manuscripts are always written in red paper. On his sets, crew members say there's an unspoken rule: don't sit down. If you're sitting, you're not working. These aren't quirks, they're strategy. That strategy turned a filmmaker with no formal training into a man worth an estimated $200 to $300 million. And it's about to face its biggest test yet. He was born in London in 1970 to an English father who worked in advertising and an American mother who worked as a flight attendant and teacher. That mix of cultures meant he grew up moving between the UK and the US, a detail that later shaped how universally his films would travel. As a kid, he became fixated on two things: Star Wars and Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey. Both films are about scale. Massive worlds built from careful, obsessive detail. That obsession never left him. He started making his own films almost immediately, using his father's Super 8 camera to shoot stop-motion shorts with his toys, without any crew and budget. Just a kid teaching himself how images could tell a story. His younger brother, Jonathan, was writing stories of his own. Years later, that same brother would co-write Memento and The Dark Knight, meaning Nolan built his creative partnership before he ever built his career. Instead of film school, Nolan studied English literature at University College London. That decision looked strange for an aspiring director, but it was actually calculated. UCL had a film society with cameras and editing equipment he could use for free. He got the technical training without the film school price tag, and without the debt that comes with it. Using minimal crews, no budget, and university gear, he made short films like Larceny and Doodlebug on 16mm. There was no early success, no prize money, no agent calling. He balanced office jobs with filmmaking, unsure if this was a career or an expensive hobby. There was no proof yet that any of it would work. Then came Following, his first feature film, shot in black and white over roughly a year, only on weekends, because that's all the time and money he had. The reported budget was about $6,000, financed almost entirely from his own pocket and help from friends. Following made less than $100,000 in limited release. On paper, that sounds like a failure. It wasn't. The film played the festival circuit and reached the right eyes in Los Angeles. It proved Nolan could build a tense, structurally complex thriller with almost no resources at all. That proof was worth more than any box office number. One tiny movie, shot for the price of a used car, was about to change everything. That proof of concept led to Memento in 2000, based on a short story by his brother Jonathan. Budget, roughly $9 million. Worldwide box office, about $40 million. A strong return for an unconventional, non-franchise thriller. It earned 2 Oscar nominations and turned Nolan into one of the most talked-about new directors in the industry. Studios noticed something rare. He could deliver acclaimed, profitable films built on ideas nobody else was making. That reputation reached Warner Brothers at exactly the right moment. Batman was coming off a disaster. Batman and Robin had wrecked the franchise's credibility. Warner needed someone to save it. Batman Begins in 2005 cost about $150 million and made $373 million worldwide. The Dark Knight in 2008 cost around $185 million and crossed $1 billion. And The Dark Knight Rises in 2012 crossed $1.08 billion. Once The Dark Knight hit $1 billion, something shifted. Nolan wasn't just a hired director anymore. He was a name that could move a franchise from risky to guaranteed. And instead of staying inside that franchise machine, he used the leverage to demand something else entirely: total creative control over original, high-budget films. What followed was one of the strangest runs in modern Hollywood. Original, non-franchise films getting franchise-sized budgets. The Prestige cost about $40 million and made $109 million. A modest but important proof that his non-franchise dramas could turn a profit. Inception cost $160 million and made $836 million worldwide. Industry insiders describe his deal on this film as one of the most lucrative original concept arrangements any director has signed in modern Hollywood. Interstellar cost around $165 million and made about $715 million, produced through Syncopy, with both Warner Brothers and Paramount involved, giving Nolan control as director and producer at once. Tenet cost about $200 million and made only $365 million, a disappointment by his standards, hit hard by pandemic theatre restrictions. But it reinforced something else. Nolan would defend theatrical releases at massive financial risk, and audiences respected that. Then came Oppenheimer. Budget, about $100 million. Worldwide gross, about $950 million. According to Forbes, his deal reportedly included around 20% of first dollar gross, plus a major upfront salary, pushing his personal earnings from that single film into the estimated $80 to $100 million range. By this point, Nolan wasn't just a successful director. He'd become one of the only people in the industry whose name alone could justify a 9-figure budget. So where does the actual money come from? Multiple financial estimates place Nolan's net worth somewhere between $200 and $300 million, with $250 million often cited as the midpoint. Because his companies are privately held, no one can confirm the exact number. His income comes from 4 main channels. Directing fees, which reach 8 figures on his biggest films. Writing credits, since he's often his own screenwriter. Producing income through Syncopy, the company he co-founded, which earns fees and profit shares on nearly every film he makes. And back-end participation, a cut of box office, streaming, and home video revenue that keeps paying out for years. Here's the part that explains everything. Why do studios trust him with money nobody else gets? Because his films almost always open big and keep selling tickets for weeks. Exactly the kind of performance that premium formats like IMAX depend on. Why do A-list actors take lower upfront pay to work with him? Because starring in a Nolan film raises their prestige, and many negotiate profit participation instead of a big paycheck. Back to The Odyssey. Reports point to Mediterranean and European coastal filming locations, echoing the poem's sea voyage, though the full location list isn't confirmed. The budget again is projected, not officially released, somewhere between $150 and $250 million, based on comparisons to Interstellar and Oppenheimer. If it performs like those films, analysts project a worldwide box office between $600 and $900 million. Under a typical Nolan-style deal, that could mean tens of millions in personal earnings, assuming the film succeeds. Behind all of it is one steady partnership. Emma Thomas Nolan married her in 1997. They have 4 children and live in Los Angeles. Thomas isn't just his wife. She co-founded Syncopy and has produced nearly every major film he's made. That partnership gives him something few directors have, a trusted collaborator managing the business side while he focuses on the work. He's famously private, avoids smartphones and email, and prefers writing by hand and talking face-to-face. Beyond those details, there's little public information about his daily life, and that privacy itself is part of the strategy. No overexposure, no distractions from the work. So how did Christopher Nolan actually build this empire? Not through luck, not through talent alone. He built it by turning himself into an asset, a director whose name functions like a franchise, without ever owning a franchise. He used one hit to fund the next risk. Batman gave him leverage. He spent that leverage on original ideas. Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Oppenheimer. And each success brought him more control for the next film. He protected that control obsessively, through IMAX, through practical effects, through Syncopy, through refusing to overexpose his name. Christopher Nolan didn't get rich by chasing every franchise offer in Hollywood. He got rich by betting, again and again, on the one asset most studios don't actually own, a director's name that audiences trust like a brand.